Hello again from Malaga in Spain. Earlier this week we brought you an exclusive video review of this, the new Vauxhall Astra GSe, the first of Vauxhall's models to wear the new GSe badge. And if you haven't already watched that video, do so by clicking the link in the top right hand side of your screen. If you remember, GSe stands for Grand Sport Electric and signifies models that have both a sporty attitude and an electrified powertrain. And hot on the heels of the Astra, it is now time for us to have a go in this, the all-new Grandland GSe, the second model to get the GSe treatment. Like the Astra, it is a plug-in hybrid, but as befits its larger size, it is also considerably more powerful. While the Astra gets 225 metric horsepower from the combination of its 1.6 litre turbocharged petrol engine and its single electric motor, the Grandland gets a second electric motor, and that helps boost the car's overall output up to 300 horsepower, and the additional motor also brings with it four-wheel drive. Now we'll get to the result of all that in a little while, but for now, let's just behold the sporty makeover that the Grandland GSe has received. Like the Astra, it has a contrasting black roof, but look at this. The bonnet has been given the same treatment. It also has the same funky design of alloy wheel, inspired by the Manta GSe concept car, although in this case they are slightly bigger at 19 inches. Apparently the badging and rear diffuser have also been restyled, but if they have, it's blooming difficult to see where. Just like with the Astra, the GSe's extra batteries and motors do mean you lose a bit of boot space compared with regular non-plug-in versions of the Grandland. Capacity drops from a very useful 514 litres to just 390. That is a heck of a drop, and it's actually not that much more space than you get in a Volkswagen Golf, despite the Grandland being considerably bigger. The rear seats fold in a 60-40 split for when you need more space, and the load area you get is nicely flat and level. Rear passenger space is fine, with room for a couple of reasonably tall adults to sit comfortably, although some rivals provide more space in every direction, not to mention sliding seats. Like in other Grandlands, you get this kind of twin screen layout for your infotainment and your digital instruments. With the instruments, you can change the nature and the layout of the information you're getting by twiddling this little bit of the indicator stalk like that, so that's all good. The infotainment system is a little bit less successful, however, because the software is a little bit slow and the user interface isn't quite as intuitive as it could be. The biggest drawback with the interior is that it feels a bit dull though, with many of the materials feeling decidedly dour. There are plenty of rivals that feel plusher. On the plus side though, you do get the same Alcantara trim sport seats that you get in the Astra GSe, and they're just as supportive and comfortable. As we mentioned, the GSe develops 300 metric horsepower, which actually makes it the most powerful car Vauxhall currently sells. And to be fair, that is a proper hot hatch level of power output, which is certainly befitting of the GSe badge. The question is, does the performance follow the power output? Kinda yes and kind of no. 0 to 62 happens in 6.1 seconds, so it is quite a fast car. But for context, a Cupra Ateca, which is a performance SUV of about the same size and has exactly the same power output, does the same dash more than a second quicker. The way the power is delivered can be a bit inconsistent too. The level of acceleration available in electric-only mode isn't as strong as it is when the petrol motor is running, and when you're running around at moderate speed, it's not always clear whether the combustion engine has switched itself off or not. That means that when you bury the throttle on the move, half the time you get full acceleration, and the other half you accelerate a bit and then you have to wait a few seconds for the petrol engine to pipe up before you get full power. And once it does, the GSe feels just about fast enough to convince as a performance SUV, but not until. And like we said, it never feels as ballistically fast as rivals such as the Cupra Ateca. What the Cupra Ateca can't do, however, is roll around on electric power alone. The GSe will do that for up to 41 miles on a full charge of the 14.2 kilowatt hour lithium-ion battery and at speeds of up to 84 miles per hour. And when you are in electric only mode, your progress is as quiet and as serene as you'd expect. Like in the Astra GSe, the petrol engine can make a bit of a racket when you work it hard, but it's not as shouty as in the Astra, and at least the noise results in a proper feeling of acceleration. Driven more moderately, the 8-speed automatic gearbox manages the engine's work rate well, so engine noise stays in the background for most of the time. The other area in which the GSe has the Cupra Ateca licked is quite obviously on fuel economy. Cupra buyers can expect an official average fuel consumption figure of 31.7 miles per gallon. And the GSe's official figure? 235 miles per gallon. Now obviously that figure is born out of laboratory tests that are unrealistically flattering to plug-in hybrids, and to get anything like that in the real world you'll need to plug in regularly and confine yourself to short trips so that you spend the vast majority of your time running on electric only power. Because as soon as your electric power runs dry and the petrol engine is required to haul around all the extra weight of the batteries and motors, the GSe will become very thirsty indeed. The final question to answer is whether the Grandland GSe feels as sporty as it arguably should in other areas. And in order to make it so, Vauxhall's engineers have applied many of the same fettlings to the Grandland GSe suspension as they have to the Astra GSe's. That includes stiffer springs, more sophisticated dampers, recalibrated steering for more responsiveness, and a traction control system with higher tolerances. The question is, has all of that worked? Well, it certainly controls its body movements well for a tall, heavy car, and there's no shortage of grip and traction, probably thanks in part to that four-wheel drive system. Like with the Astra, you can feel rather pronounced weight transfer as you turn, especially in tighter corners. But given the car's lofty stance, it actually feels surprisingly tidy, if not quite as lithe or as fluid as the Cupra, or even a less performance-focused version of the Ford Kuga. The steering has improved mine thanks to those keener responses and satisfying weight. And like with the Astra, it felt on the smooth Spanish roads of our test drive like the regular Grandland's ride comfort has been maintained, although we will need to try the car on a battered British road before we can be absolutely certain that that's the case. So, as a performance SUV, the Grandland GSe is fairly convincing, certainly more convincing than its Astra stablemate. Sure, there are other performance SUVs that are perhaps a bit more convincing, but the Grandland certainly has its place. Where the argument for this car becomes a lot more compelling though is if you are a company car driver, because this car's plug-in hybrid drivetrain means you'll pay company car tax on just 8% of its value, which when compared to SUVs with similar power that don't have that technology is going to save you a heck of a lot in monthly company car tax bills. And if you are convinced by the package of talents offered by the Grandland, it is on sale now for £43,700. Do tell us what you think of the Vauxhall Grandland GSe, and do subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel for lots more car reviews and first drives. And if we've inspired you to start shopping for your next car, head over to cargurus.co.uk to find it. And using our clever pricing technology, we'll even tell you whether the dealer selling it is giving you a good price.